1935, the Lions win the NFL championship. The Detroit Tigers take the World Series. The Red Wings bring home Lord Stanley's Cup. Joe Louis begins his rise to world domination. This transforms the Motor City into Detroit, City of Champions.
Anchors away. Here we go. It's Detroit, City of Champions. I'm Jamie Flanagan.
Charles Avison.
And it is the story of 1935 and all things that led up to it. The amazing year. And just we've Lions, Tigers, and Bears. Oh my! We've been through hockey and football and baseball and boxing, and we're into the drink now.
We're into the drink.
When people say that
more ways than one.
People say that about me. It's usually something different. Yeah, but when we're talking about into the drink, when it comes to the City of Champions story, the big dog with the big engines, that's Gar Wood.
Definitely, This is into the drink with and that's we're gonna see at some point here in the future about that's gonna be a reality with the story too.
There's a special on Netflix or something. I forget what. One of the hey, cable is not cable anymore. You got to buy the individual cables. Anyway, one of those subscription service, and it's like about the 70s. Minor league basketball, and it's but I'm like, Will Smith already did that. Been there, done that.
Which 1970s basketball? What do you mean?
There's a new, docu.
I got you. Like talking about some, because there's a they have.
It's a scripted thing, but it's it's about how ridiculous that minor league basketball was.
Okay.
Will Smith did his thing. So I'm gonna wrestle a bear.
My favorite,
just ridiculous things to get people in the thing.
There's a movie called Semi Pro, which is one of my favorite movies with Will Ferrell.
Why did I say Will Smith?
Will Ferrell, yeah. Oh, that's one of the greatest things ever. That's one of the greatest movies ever, dude.
It's like
the Flint Tropics. The Flint Tropics were based in Michigan.
Why was I saying Will Smith?
I thought that maybe that's where you're going.
Oh no, Will Ferrell. Yeah, Will Ferrell and
because it's one of the greatest things in the movie. They show the
I'm gonna wrestle a bear.
They show the invention of the alley-oop dunk.
Yeah.
It's one of the greatest scenes of all time.
It's amazing.
I know, I love that.
So they're redoing that, but it was like it's I'm gonna wrestle a bear.
What, they're doing a part 2?
No. There's a scripted, more about the real one.
Oh, okay. I see what you're saying, like the movie that it's based on.
Yeah.
But I just love that movie it was the Flint Tropics. It was set, which is Flint, and then it has nothing to do with the tropics at all. But it's like the name of I think my favorite scene from that movie is one of my favorite scenes is when the guy with the the hippie guy is shooting for a $10 million shot from full court shot, and he hits it.
He hits it. Crap.
He hits it. He goes, oh man. And then what? First thing he tells the ref, he goes, his foot was over the line. You're like, come on. He goes, no. The ref was watching the whole way. And he goes, no, I was watching. His foot was not over the line. He's like, yeah, come on, man.
But I think we're talking about Gar Wood, and it was just trying to get people excited about sports and excited about things, and they would do ridiculous things. Yeah. And coming up, I think it's in the next episode that we're going to talk about a stunt.
Yeah, it's coming up right now.
Is that in today's?
Yeah.
I don't want to give it away.
With the train, yeah.
All right,
yeah.
So that's in today's.
Yeah.
I'm going to wrestle a bear.
I'm
going to wrestle a bear, and I'm going to race a train in a boat.
Yeah, well, this is an area, they're trying to populate. I mean, you still see random stuff like that today, like stuff like this, but this is like...
Sure, bobblehead night, and.
Yeah, so we'll get right into it.
So it's the Gar Wood story, and Chris Kraft making the boats, and then he was on his way, and Gar is just still doing it, right?
Yeah, well, Chris Smith, we let off really the first couple shows of Gar Wood talking about how Chris Smith, born and raised Algonac,
it's kind of the godfather,
totally the godfather of speedboat racing. Yeah. And so that's why it's really necessary to talk about him because just to show the influence of of this entire story of this era. It's not just Gar Wood. You have Chris Smith that's massively involved in it too, and one of the things that we showed was that Chris Smith had this rising and falling fortunes. He at first he was like just trying to make some money. He got commissioned to do a speedboat for a guy in New York. And then the Miss Detroit Powerboat Society was built, and then they commissioned him to build the Miss Detroit to race on this Detroit River and that. And so he's making money here and there. But at one point we had a show called His Last 2 Cents because Chris Smith was down to nothing. He had no money. The Miss Detroit Powerboat Association basically had to stiff him on payments. Yep. He ended up having to build boats for Minnesota, the Miss Minneapolis, but then once Gar Wood stepped in the picture and was basically sparing no expense for the development of the best fastest, most powerful boats, then he finally had a steady financial backer. And so for several years, he was the one that was building, helping Gar Wood build these boats, the hull design and all this. And he got to the point, and this is really where it kind of takes us up into today's show. It got to the point in 1920 where he wanted one more big payday because he wanted to start his own company. Yeah. Instead of just building speedboats for Gar Wood, he wanted to do his own craft. He wanted to do pleasure boats and other boats, just other types of boats. He didn't want to just be Gar Wood's speedboat builder. Okay. And so what he ended up doing was building a boat for a Chicago yacht club. And then it was called the Miss Chicago, and the Miss Chicago, of course, challenged Gar Wood in the 1920 Harmsworth Trophy, which was his first title defense of the Harmsworth. Yep. And so, Gar Wood's the Miss America. I forgot which one it was. The Miss America 2 or 3 beat that Miss Chicago. Where did I have it? I guess I put myself out without even knowing that. It was the So the Miss Chicago, Miss America 1 and 2 both faced off the Miss Chicago in that race and beat it. And so so Chris Smith with basically the writings on the wall. Gar Wood's not going to have you building boats for other people and that. So the writings. So he got his last check. And he left, so that was his last. But so here's the thing: is what we didn't talk about in the last episode was this idea that was not the last boat that he built for Gar Wood.
Oh, okay.
So
don't call it a comeback.
Yeah. So the last boat that Chris Smith built for Gar Wood was called the Gar Junior. It was called the Gar Junior 2. Okay. And we mentioned, we alluded to this to the train, and that's not the one that the picture I have as of yet. You can hold on and show that for a second. But the last thing that the last boat that Chris Smith built for Gar Wood was called the Gar Junior 2, and it was an express cruiser which Gar Wood used in a race. Gar Wood raced a train called the Havana Special. Okay. This one was from Miami to New York. Wow. 1,260 miles they raced up the coast. And Gar Wood, that boat that Chris Smith built for Gar, won the race by 21 minutes. Wow. So they raced, and so that was the last boat. So
I feel like saying the game is afoot.
Yeah. So that was So 1921 is where it was when that race took place. Okay. And so there's several sort of just to kind of itemize where we're at sort of in the story. So 1921 we talked about on the last show that how they changed the rules in the Gold Cup to prevent so that it wasn't unlimited boat design anymore. Okay. It was unlimited, and then they changed it so that it was limited because Gar was just winning everything with these crazy boat designs. Right. And so they wanted to encourage other rich people to get in that had that basically could buy from Chris Smith and then have like 10 boats that are fairly similar, and they all just race and see who's the best maneuverability and stuff. Yeah. So they had so they could open it up to a bigger
any given Sunday.
Yes, and so it wasn't just hydroplanes, which is what Gar Wood was into. Was like they call them displacement boats, where it's just a basic hull instead of having the step and everything like this. So 1921 was Gar Wood's last Gold Cup. Okay. So 1921. Was again, we mentioned the last Chris Craft boat that Chris Smith built for him, and that was the Gar Junior 2. All right. And then 1921, Gar Wood set the world record for speed on water at 80.567 miles per hour. So they're going 80 miles an hour now. Wow. 80 miles an hour. And it's been 20 years since they were going 10 miles an hour, and look how now they're at 80. And so in 1921 is also going to be Gar Wood's last Harmsworth race for a while. This is like, because he's become, this is where we actually mentioned this in the last show, Gar Wood is becoming so dominant at this point with 5 total Gold Cups, and they changed the rules of the race to prevent him from even being part of it. Right? And again, we talked about this, we just mentioned it here, and we mentioned the last show. As bad as it sounds like, they totally jobbed Gar Wood and not letting him do the being part of the race anymore, it has like a negative connotation. But if you go back to that time, they wanted to encourage way more things to happen besides just Gar Wood dominating every single race. So like, Gar, you made your point. You're the best racer in the world. Okay. You got to go do something. Or you can race in these races. You just got to have a limited engine. And he's like, I'm not doing that. I want to have unlimited.
Well, I'm going.
I don't go negative.
I'm going backwards.
I'm not going back in time.
I don't think you people know how this works.
Exactly. So they knew he was not going to be part of it. So he wanted. So 1921 was his last Gold Cup, and it was his second Harmsworth. And then
he screw it. I'm going to wrestle a bear.
No, well, kind of. Because the next thing is, and that's why we titled this episode, In Pursuit of Competition, is because now Gar Wood is going to be looking for somebody to challenge. Because he's regarded as, in 1921, like as we mentioned, he races a train from Miami to New York and beats it, right? So he's establishing himself as the number one speedboat guy in the world, and people are like, I think I'm good. I'll wait a few years and see if he retires or something. They want nothing to do with him. So there's no Harmsworth challenges. Right. So that's that's the big thing about the Harmsworth is the challenge. It's another country challenges you. Yeah. And so he's got no challengers, and so he doesn't want to go back and reduce his speed for the Gold Cup, and he can't go forward and race nobody for the Harmsworth. Yeah. So he's kind of in limbo at this moment. So to sort of compensate for this, because he wants some kind of a challenge. So what he does is that he starts his own races called the International Sweepstakes. Okay. In 1920, and so he starts it out in 1922, but the first race in 1923. And so he issued, and it was inspired by the Indianapolis 500. In which, so the idea was there was 3 laps of 50 miles. Okay. So it was a 150-mile race, and then there was a cash prize of $25,000. Which, of course, is a huge amount of money in that time. So, and of course, Gar Wood wins the first 2 races. Like, he wins his own race and collects his own $25,000. You better win him. Yeah. So, so that takes us up into 1925. I'll mention 1924 real quick. So I got a little quote here, which is cool to go along with the photo that I gave you to put up. So there was this is out of Speedboat Kings. And I brought my copy in today to show just the cover, because the cover of the book, is the photo that we're showing on the screen.
All right,
and
we'll bring that up.
In that photo, it's like one of the greatest photos ever, because it's got Gar Wood and Orland Johnson, who's his mechanic. They're both dressed in tuxedos for this race. Okay. And so that's on the cover of the book. And so I've got a quote for why they're dressed in tuxedos, and it's a phenomenal little story. And this happens. All right. And this happens in 1924. So I'll let the J. Lee Barrett tell you why they're dressed in tuxes here. So someone told Wood that his boats were not gentlemen runabouts. No gentleman would ever ride in one of those boats, was the remark. Wood went back to Algonac and built 5 boats before he had one that qualified. Finally, in 1924, he took his baby Gar 4, powered by the restricted Liberty engine, to Buffalo for the Fisher Allison Trophy race. Dinning his ears was that fatal remark about gentlemen's runabouts. He and Orland Johnson, his mechanic, appeared at the judges' stand in full formal evening dress, sitting in the cockpit of their boat. Silk hats, swallowtails, white gloves, patent leather shoes, everything for formal wear. Even the 2 teddy bears were in evening dress. They won the race. Wood and Johnson climbed out of their boat as dry, as clean, as completely ready for a formal affair as they had been at the starting gun. Why, this is a gentleman's boat, Wood said. Milady may ride in it clad in a snow-white outfit without danger of a spot of oil or grease. So they dressed in a tuxes to win this race. Stepped out like it was just another regular. They won the race and stepped out ready to go to a formal. Even the teddy bears were dressed in tuxes. I thought it was just awesome. Like, this just shows you this person. These people are characters. Like, this is the page-turning stuff of their day.
Oh man, that's great. It's I thought he was like, when I saw this picture, I thought it was like maybe some dignitary or something he was taking for a ride.
Yeah, exactly. Like he's
it's him and the mechanic.
Like he's like in a ticker tape parade or something. Like he just won something big, and they're like in the back of a car or something. That's what I'm saying. Like they won the race and stepped out as though they were ready for it. Like he's like, "Milady can wear a white dress without fear of oil or grease." It's just a great little story, and I love how J. Lee Barrett puts that on the cover of how they put that on the cover.
Right.
On the cover of the book. So
that's amazing.
So anyways, I actually have the picture, which is what we have up on screen for people to see. And if you can't see it, if you're just listening to it, you get to kind of picture in your mind. It's got Gar Wood and Orland Johnson. They're both wearing tuxes. Gar's got a top hat that he's waving up in the air, and Orland Johnson's got a little, like, what do we call it, a sailor's hat, with a brim, like a baseball cap. So anyways, great photo. That was in 1924. And then in 1925, he races a train again.
Oh, my gosh.
So this one I actually have the article for because it kind of goes into, it kind of gives a little bit of a idea what's going on at the time. This is not from J. Lee Barrett. This is from a magazine. We have the photo from the magazine. I'm actually reading the magazine article. But so this little quote comes from August 1925, and it's from Popular Science Monthly. And so it's by the article is called "The Motorboat Victor and Race with Express aims at 100-mile goal" by Ellsworth Bennett. So precisely at 8 minutes before 7 the other morning, the first section of the famous 20th Century Limited, one of the fastest trains in the world, rumbled across the New York Central Bridge at Albany, New York, for its daily trip down the Hudson River shore to New York City. 1 minute later, two high-powered motorboats, the Baby Gar 4 and the Baby Gar 5, flashed out from a float almost directly beneath the bridge, and in furrows of flying spray streaked down the river in pursuit. The shades of Robert Fulton and of Henry Hudson must have stood aghast at the dramatic contest that followed. On the shore, a streamer of smoke marked the swift passage of the 20th century over the rails, while out in the river, long ribbons of foam streamed back in the wake of the little speedboats as they leapt across the waters. And in the end, one of the motorboats won. After the Baby Gar 5 had broken down, the Baby Gar 4, with its owner Gar Wood at the helm, completed the 150-mile journey to New York, 18 miles, 24 minutes ahead of the express. It made the trip in 2 hours, 48 minutes, an average of 46.5 miles an hour. Some have said that it was no race at all, that the 20th century, starting from Albany, 39 minutes ahead of schedule, was compelled to loaf along the river, bound to a schedule of safe operation. However that may be, the fact remains that this encounter passes into history as an epic-making event. For by showing that it can leave behind one of the fastest trains on the rails, the power boat definitely has won a place beside the airplane and the automobile in the era of speed. Experts are predicting that the day is not far off when motorboats will travel 100 miles an hour. The present world record of 80 miles an hour is held by Miss America 2, one of Gar Wood's boats. Two of his boats have approached a 90-mile-an-hour speed unofficially, and now with the 100-mile goal in prospect, he has announced that he expects to build a boat with 2,500 horsepower, one that literally will fly across the water. Another sportsman who is aiming at the same goal as Alexander Johnson, a New York man who now is building the Yankee Doodle, a speedboat with 4 Liberty motors, giving it about 1,800 horsepower. So this is, so they're talking about, they're like, now the boat, unbelievably is in the same realm of speed as the airplane and the automobile.
Right.
This is that's what's kind of, this was so really cool about this is it's almost like a lot of times we just kind of, we see it and we don't really appreciate the era before it was there, before there was speed on water, before power boats or motorboat engines were anything. Like every single thing he did was like pushing the limits of the next step up, and the next step they're like 80 miles an hour. They just did 80. They averaged 45 like it was nothing. And the next step, could they break 100?
Right.
Like, oh my God, that's huge.
So spoiler alert.
Well, yeah, you spoiler it by saying spoiler alert. Just by saying that, I never spoiled anything. You just spoiler alert just by saying that.
I think he's gonna do it.
Yeah. So we'll wait till you see what he gets to. It's like that's another level. So, anyways, this is the kind of stuff he's doing. He's got this international sweepstakes, which he's romping everybody. He's doing races in tuxedos, which he in the article be fair with his tuxes, he actually had to reduce the size boat just to so he could make a game of it and wear a tux. Now he's racing. He's racing his second train in 3 years. 3 years or whatever, 4 years. And so he's like this is why I started this thing, pursuit of competition, because he's like almost bored. He's like looking to do things, and waiting for something to do. And so in 1925 comes the words that he's been looking for, which is a challenge.
A challenge for the
Harmsworth. And the
baby.
challenge is issued by the French, and it's by a guy named Henry Esdras. And so they issued it through the French newspapers, like, I'm challenging Gar Wood for the Harmsworth. And so the rumors had come out that the Esdras had unofficially broken Wood's 80-mile-an-hour record over in France. It was unofficially. Nobody saw that he broke it, but the word is that he had. And so, as such, Gar Wood's men build 2 new boats for the race, the Miss America 3 and the Miss America 4. Mm-hmm. So they get ready with the 3 and Miss America 3 and 4. And so, shortly before coming to Detroit with his boat, that Esdras' boat catches fire and is completely destroyed. So now in 1925, there's no Harmsworth again for the 4th straight year. And 1926, Esdras issues another challenge once again. So
come on,
yeah, we have another race.
Pack a fire extinguisher this time.
So at this time, this time his boat, it was called the Excelsior France.
Excelsior
reaches Detroit. Yeah, fancy name, super. It's got to be competitive. So it reaches. So as the boat, this time this boat actually gets to Detroit.
Yeah, okay.
And so Wood builds the Miss America 5. Now to get ready for for this, right? So the 3 and 4 were built from the previous race. Now the 5 is ready to go. And so the 3, 4, and 5 are now ready to race. He's got 3 boats on the river to go against the Excelsior France. And so, unfortunately for the French, for Esdras, they can't get the boat started.
You can't win for losing, man.
Even with Gar Wood's mechanics' help, because they're like,
we want to run.
We want to race. Yeah. We want to race so we can beat you.
And clock the new record too. He probably said he sets a record every big race he
they're all
hits.
like, oh man, come on. but I guess because the Esdras boat had actually gotten into the river, the race basically theoretically counted because they had all assembled for it. And so the 3, 4, and 5 just raced each other in front of 250,000 fans on the river.
It's like masturbation racing.
Yeah, basically, I guess. So the 3, 4, and 5 race each other in front of 250,000 fans on the Detroit River, and the Canadians, on the Detroit River.
I've been there.
Between the two boats.
I don't care who's running.
And so
I want to hear loud boats making big splashes.
Yes,
and you can all be one team. I don't care.
And so the Miss America 5 wins the race, and guess who's driving? Guess. Take a guess.
This is like big time wrestling. Yeah. It's Gar Wood won it.
Congratulations. You got it. I was going to put it out to our viewers at home. Viewers, if you're going to guess it, it's Gar Wood who wins. Select A. And if you're going to select that as his brother who won, select B. Gar Wood wins. He always wins with the most. Every single article you read, no matter what race it is, they're talking about some kind of even if it's some kind of random race or whatever, they're like, Gar Wood's got 4 boats in the competition. It's always with him driving that wins.
There's the bell for the correct answer.
Oh, there you go. Ding, you got it. If you would have voted from Gar Wood, we would have put what is it? The Price is Right fail song. The Price is Right fail.
Oh man.
So, anyways, Gar Wood wins in the Miss America 5, but he beats his other 2 boats.
Right.
So just the French challenge is a total failure. But they got to see a race. They got to see Gar Wood's boats race. But again, this is where we're at. This is where we're at in the world of speedboat racing, which is that Gar Wood is so dominant, the only person racing is himself against his own boats. You see, so anyway, so that's why this episode. That's all I got for today. We're gonna pick up on the next for the next show. Next show, is when it starts to really ramp up. The next show is when it's going to start to ramp. These challenges start to come. Yeah. They're going to start to come fast and furious. But it's kind of worth mentioning that there's this sort of you can just see through the stuff that he's doing in this lull between the end of 1921. and 1926. Really going into 1920, really all the way to 1927. That there's this lull where he is just begging for competition. He's like, somebody race me, and so there's that's what kind of happens during this little lull, but it's going to pick up in a big time way in the next episode that we do. In the next episode, like this, I can't wait to tell the story for episode 57 that we got.
Yeah.
Oh, hold your calls, America. We have a winner.
There you go.
That's my little. I got all these little winner and losers cards from when we would play the.
You'll just wait. Did you hear anything I just said over the last bit?
No, not a thing. I was
trying
to
find that.
I was trying to find the.
You are the weakest link. Goodbye.
Okay, save that when we got the weakest link on board. Cue it up. Cue the Jeopardy fail or the Price Right fail song just in case we ever need that. Cue that up
I'm telling you. Here we go. There's
Fat, drunk, and stupid is no way to go through life, sir.
That's not the Price Right fail.
No, that's my favorite fail though.
No, the Price Right fail. Hit that.
I don't have that one.
Come on, man.
I got it somewhere. It's just
that's the greatest fail song ever. Like like everything's just completely falling apart.
All right.
So anyways, just like say, this is where we're at sort of in the story. There's this little lull in the middle of his career where he's just begging for challengers.
Yeah. I'll race a train and wrestle a bear.
Twice. Racing trains twice. Racing in tuxedos.
Yeah.
Not only, welcoming the French over for a challenge, but helping them try to get their boat started, which we'll see in a future episode, maybe 3-4 episodes, that his competitors definitely did not give him the same courtesy. There's gonna be times where there's something wrong with his boat, and the other side is like, we don't care if your boat's ready or not. We'll take the trophy one way or the other.
They're hiding his lug nuts.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like they did not extend the same courtesy to him, and he's over there. He's just telling the French, like, I don't know what you built this boat out of, but it's junk. He's like, the Excelsior did not live up to his nickname.
What the hell? So when you say Excelsior, I get lost in old Detroit radio. It's there was this guy, Mark Scott. He did political talk, and that was how he ended his show every day. Excelsior!
Oh, really?
He was like, Mark. Yeah, so anytime I hear the word Excelsior, I just think Mark Scott and WXYT back in the day. Anyhow, so you said the next episode people do not want to miss.
Oh no, you do not know. The next episode, if you've listened, really,
must listen. If you listen to podcast,
if you've listened to any episodes so far in Gar Wood, especially this Gar Wood section, next episode is definitely one you do not want to miss. And definitely not one. I've got a couple of beautiful quotes for the next episode.
Assure themselves that they don't miss it by simply
subscribing, liking. Yeah,
I forgot to say that at the top. We just dive in and get into having fun, and I forget to do that whole podcast etiquette of could you please like, subscribe, but
go to our
at this point,
go to our pages.
If you stuck around
this, our website.
If you stuck around this long, thank you. We appreciate it. We appreciate you hanging with us, and then like, subscribe, collect, leave a comment, all those things, and then the best possible thing you can do is tell a friend. An actual honest-to-God person that is like, hey, this is an interesting thing. If you like history, if you like Detroit, if you like sports, this is the thing for you.
Yeah, I mean, this is the era that Detroit sports were born.
Because I'm not a sports guy.
Well,
we've established. I know nothing about nothing.
I've told you about this before. That your very first education in Detroit sports comes with the beginning.
Yeah.
You're learning. It's almost like you're watching Star Wars from episode 1 rather than beginning with like the New Hope. Like you watch the '90s movie, the early 2000s movies instead of the originals first.
I may not have gotten a New Hope if I had watched those first.
Yeah. Oh, that's a good point. Yeah. But I'm just saying, you actually get to, you don't have to go back in time to learn about. You're learning about the history first, and so this era in these stories that we're telling, this is the foundation of what Detroit sports became. And I talk about this with regards to modern Detroit sports because I love modern stuff too. I absolutely love modern stuff. And so, but the thing about it is every once in a while you see little glimpses of fans, of teams, of things that resonate all the way back to this era.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I firmly believe, and I've said this a bunch of times in the show already, that if we actually identified these things and some of these unique attributes of Detroit that shaped these teams, and we're more aware of what it was about these teams and these people specifically about these teams, and that it would not only potentially help the teams themselves, it would help. It would make everything better. It would make the games better. It would make the experience better if we could tap into, if we actually identified what about these.
What was
teams,
so magical about this time?
Yes, about
what the heck was in the water?
Well, about this time, and also the things that carried it along until this modern day. What are those specific things that you can identify and tap into them directly? The marketing for the teams would be better.
Yep.
The journalism for the teams would be better.
Yeah. Oh,
iffy. Iffy. Like, look at we're talking. We love
dumpster.
iffy.
I love iffy the dumpster.
Like the media would be better.
Yeah.
Everything. There'd be so many, like the teams, the development of the teams, like the just building the teams. Everything would be so much. I think there'd be so many things you could add to enhance Detroit sports by looking at what came before. And that's what I'm saying. That's one of that, and that was the eye I took while doing this entire project, was to look for the things that shaped who we are, not just and also how we can use those things. That was actually, I'm like sort of I guess you say a practical historian, which is trying to look for stuff that could potentially be of benefit to the modern day world. That's the angle that I always take for all that, is what's the lessons we can learn.
So we got more on the way coming up. Chris is with us. Jesse was chiming in earlier.
What's up, boys? How you doing?
So yeah,
thanks for
Chris
watching.
Chris is desperate to read Speedboat Kings, and he think he's found one at the library. Well, tell them they got like an $800 book on their hands.
Just don't return it,
or don't return it. pay that $20
$20 for not returning.
Sell that bad lad on eBay.
I want to see if they have it at some. You find it at a used bookstore or something.
Yeah.
This is the definition of finding a diamond in the rough, or finding a rare find, like an Antique Roadshow thing, where you go into a used bookstore and they got a copy of Speedboat Kings.
That one right there. If you're watching the video.
Yeah. Well, there's also a first. This was the edition that came out in the 80s.
Right.
There's an actual first edition too. That
can't even imagine what that one's going for.
Yeah, I don't even know. I think it's the same. I thought I saw it listed on Amazon for about the same. Because they're all super rare. But this is from 1986.
All right. If you're watching us on YouTube or Facebook, stick around. We got another episode we're going to record. If not, it'll be if you're listening on the audio podcast. It comes out a week later, or depends on when you found us. It could be right there next, sitting in the queue for you.
Yeah.
So thanks for listening. Like, subscribe, leave a comment, and it's DetroitCityofChampions.com, and we'll see you next time.